Hello everybody and welcome to session 8, the final session of IBS Relief Now. I really appreciate your sticking with the course, working through week by week, building skills, getting better, learning some new things, and of course, putting them into practice. What I'd like to really focus on today is how you can put all of the work that we've done so far together to develop a plan, to formulate a plan for what you're going to emphasize, what you're going to practice going forward, so you can continue to experience relief from IBS, and you can continue to experience ways in which you can bring more joy, more excitement, and more fulfillment into your day-to-day life. Throughout the course, we've said that IBS is a syndrome. And by that we have meant that there is no one particular approach that's right for everybody. I certainly hope that's been clear all the way through the different sessions that we've had in the course up until today. But even though there is no one size that fits all, there are some universal truths, you might say, that apply to everybody, even though each individual person might focus on those universal dimensions differently. So what are they? In order to go forward managing IBS effectively, you need to pay attention to the needs of the body, you need to pay attention to the needs of the brain, and you need to pay attention to the potential of the mind. All of us are embodied beings. We don't exist separate from our physical bodies. So we've talked a lot about what are the ways of taking good care of the physical body through movement, through good nutrition, and through adequate sleep. We know that the brain, this organ that sits in our skull, is the major regulator or coordinator of everything that goes on within the physical body. And certain things help the brain work better, and certain things really get in the way of our ability to think clearly, to learn, to grow, to rest, to thrive, to feel comfortable in our own skin. So we have to be able to look at how we are attending to the needs of the physical brain in order to manage IBS effectively. And lastly, we have to take a look at the potential of the mind. When I talk about mind, I'm talking about where we place our attention, what our intentions are, what it is that we choose to focus on, and I'm talking about our mindset and our attitudes. And through the course we've talked about how critically important it is to cultivate healthy attitudes, healthy outlooks, to learn to regulate attention, and to be able to direct your attention to things that are helpful and healing, to direct your attention with intention, with positive intention. So attending to the body, attending to the brain, and attending to the potential of the mind are universals that will be part of your specific plan going forward. As you go about putting together your specific plan for moving forward, I want to cover 6 different dimensions that I want you to pay attention to. We've covered these in different ways before, so I'm going to just spend a little time reminding you of some things that are really useful when it comes to having a good IBS management plan going forward in your day-to-day life. The first is that we have to really monitor and pay attention to the microscopic world that lives inside of us. What I'm talking about is the world of bacteria that live inside the gut. We've talked about all of the different things that can influence the growth of healthy bacteria or the proliferation of bacteria that actually produce the symptoms of IBS or other types of digestive disorders such as leaky gut syndrome or small intestine overgrowth patterns, all of which can produce the range of symptoms we're so familiar with when we talk about IBS. So you may want to circle back and really emphasize what are the things that make a difference in developing good gut microbiome health. Take a look at the newsletter attached to Session 8, where I have some reading resources that you can look through that really can give you some good suggestions about particular supplements or particular diets or particular things that you can do that support restoration of good microbiomic health. So that's the first of the 6. Pay attention to that microscopic world that in many ways makes us who we are. If you're not paying attention to the gut microbiome, it's really hard to bring IBS as a whole under good control. The second of the 6 dimensions has to do with the fact that we are embodied beings. And as I said before, the 3 most fundamental ways that we can take care of this body of ours, this physical body that that defines who we are, is to pay attention to how we move and exercise, what is our activity level. Digestion works so much better when the body is active, when we have movement in our lives on a day-to-day basis, whether that's trying to reach that goal of 10,000 steps daily, or whether it's yoga, or whether it is simple walks after dinner, or whether it's routines that you do in your local gym where you exercise the body vigorously. It doesn't really matter so long as the body moves. So movement, nutrition, where else are we going to get our energy from? The saying, we are what we eat, in many ways is very true. If you want good digestive health, you need to really pay attention to what good nutrition looks like for you. Circle back to the newsletter attached to Session 8. I've listed a number of resources in there for you so that you can dive more deeply into learning about different ways that you can improve your nutritional health by paying attention to the kind of foods you eat and how you prepare those foods. And finally, care for the body involves taking care of our body's reset button, and that is practices that help you to be able to sleep comfortably, restoratively, on a consistent basis. Activity, nutrition, and regular consistent sleep. The third of the 6 dimensions for your personalized IBS management plan has to do with your psychological needs. We've talked about ways of paying attention to the kind of emotions that flow through you most consistently. Are you a person who has a high background level of anxiety? Are you an individual who is still wrestling with the residue, with the ongoing after effects of past trauma? Are you an individual who feels stressed and anxious and worried much of the time? Do you live your life in a pace that's rushed and harried? Those are different dimensions of our psychology. They have to do with our attitudes and our beliefs and our outlooks on ourselves and our place in the world. Learning to track that using some of the reflective journal questions that are part of this course, or looking at, again, the resources I've listed in the newsletter connected to Session 8, is a good way to give you a head start in appreciating what some opportunities are, what some resources are that are out there for you to grab hold of, so that you can begin to pay attention to healing, to stabilizing, to resolving some of the psychological burdens that you may be carrying that, as we've said from the very beginning of the course, can have a major impact in either activating IBS or maintaining or exacerbating IBS patterns unless those psychological needs are effectively taken care of. The fourth of the 6 dimensions is the world of our social connections. It's the world of our relationships. Again, we've said throughout the course that in a way, the quality or the character of our connections to others can be reflected in the character or the pattern of our IBS functioning and our digestive health overall. Continue to ask yourself, is the network of relationships of which you are a part something in which you feel you're able to love others, and is it a network that helps you to feel loved? Is it a network within which you feel safe? Is it a network in which you feel a sense of trust, that you are trusted and you can trust the people that you're in relationship with? That social web reverberates inside of us, either in a way that is synonymous with good, comfortable health, or we feel agitated. We feel like we're walking on pins and needles. We feel like we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Take a look at the quality of your social connections. If you're not in relationships that feel supportive, trusting, loving, mutual, then those are areas that really require active and sometimes consistent attention over a long period of time, because of that social web is not stable, comforting, rewarding, nourishing. It's going to be more difficult for IBS symptoms to subside. Pay attention to relationship health. We are social creatures, and I urge you to please take that dimension of IBS functioning really, really seriously. The fifth dimension has to do with a different kind of relationship, and that is, in a sense, your relationship to the world as a whole, your place in the world. As I've said before, there's an old wisdom tradition that says each of us was supposed to walk around with 2 scraps of paper in our front pockets. On one of them was written, "I am but ashes and dust." And on the other was written the idea that the whole world was made for me. So that balance between the humility of saying, look, I'm nothing special, I'm not going to take up more space than I belong in the world, I am not going to act as though everything should revolve around me. That's good to keep in check on one hand. But the other is to recognize you're also not supposed to disappear from the world. You have a unique set of gifts to share with the world, and you want to bring those forward. So the fifth dimension is about how you exercise this balance between the practice of humility and the expression or the exercise of your unique gifts and talents and your right, maybe even your obligation, to share them with the world. And the sixth and final dimension has to do with the world of spirit. And by that, what I'm talking about is the trio of passion, meaning, and purpose. So, this sixth dimension of good IBS health that I invite you to weave into your particular IBS management plan is to do the work to really get in touch with what are the things that make you feel like your heart is singing. What are the things that energize you? Where is your passion? Connect with your passion so that you can begin to really define for yourself in a pretty specific and concrete way. What is the mission you want to live your life aligned with? What is the deep sense of purpose you want to pursue? It's possible that over time that will change, but if you don't have a sense of meaning, if you don't have a sense of purpose, and if you don't have a sense of aliveness or passion, then in my experience, people with IBS symptoms feel like they're simply going from symptom to symptom to symptom, and their lives completely revolve around IBS. So learning to connect to something larger than the symptoms, to something that goes way beyond the patterns of IBS, which I talk about in terms of passion, meaning, and purpose, is yet another really important element if you're going to weave together a comprehensive, holistic plan for managing IBS and managing your life differently going forward. Over these 8 sessions, I provided you with lots and lots of information. I hope you found it useful. And I hope you end up putting that knowledge into practice. Because in the end, this isn't a head course where now I'm going to give you a final exam and you can feed back to me what you've learned. What I'm really interested in is not what you know, but what you do. IBS Relief Now has been built around a set of skills that you could cultivate through taking the time to do the reflective journal work and taking the time to really listen to those guided audio programs that allow you to absorb different possibilities and different messages and different suggestions that can help you live your life differently going forward, beginning with helping you bring the pattern of IBS symptoms under better and more effective control. There was a great Russian playwright named Anton Chekhov who said, "Knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice." And I have to say I really agree with that. Through 33 years of doing psychotherapy with thousands of clients, including many, many clients with IBS patterns, I have seen over and over again, in the end, it's the practice, it's the skill building that's going to make the difference. So I want to end the course with a big thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and reactions with the forum that we've put together so that other people can benefit from the insights you've had or the struggles you've encountered and how you creatively learn to overcome them. My best wishes to you going forward. Thank you again, and goodbye.